Hello, it's Noona's Noonchi. Welcome to the Noona's Noonchi deep dive, live deep dive, being introspective with K-dramas from a mental health perspective. I decided to do live deep dives this month because it is the month of May, and May in the US particularly is a special month. It is Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Yay, celebrating our Asian Pacific Islander heritage, and National Mental Health Awareness Month. I mean, my two worlds are colliding this month, intersecting so powerfully. So I thought I'd do a few live deep dives for fun, right? So hello everyone. Yes, please say hi. And you guys all know, or if you don't know, I am doing a live deep dive on my liberation notes. And I'll do my best to do a brief deep dive. You know, I'd love to talk to you forever, but maybe like 10 minutes or so. I say that and then I end up talking forever. But let's go into my liberation notes. First of all, I knew that I was going to see this K-drama because it's written by the same writer as My Mister. And you all know My Mister is one of my ultimate favorite K-dramas. In fact, it's tied for first. It goes back and forth, first, second, with Reply 1988. Two K-dramas I consistently, no matter how hard I try to pivot for them, that I use consistently in my work. Even talked about it today, My Mister, in a class, just saying. Because of the depth, right? And yes, the mood isn't quite happy-go-lucky, but either is my liberation notes, right? So surprisingly, I gave you a little bit of hint on my story that I was going to talk about, I was going to do a deep dive. So far we have 8 episodes, right? I was going to do a deep dive onto a particular character for a specific reason for you to understand the 3 siblings. So you guys know the story. If you're watching this, by the way, hopefully I don't do any spoilers, but I did want to really talk about this. And I wanted to, you guys know I am a family therapist, a licensed family therapist. So what do I look at? I look at the family. Okay. But also if I'm looking at an organization, I look at the organization. Or if I look at a community, I look at the community. I don't just look at the person separately from their system. So if you're looking at the main characters or the siblings, right? Girl, boy, girl. And by the way, put in the little chat box, who's your favorite character? Just put it in there. Probably Mr. Gu. Yeah, probably, the mysterious man who's super cute. I must admit, yes, episode 7, particularly the chemistry. Woo, I was going to say that's pretty good. Yeah. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. I know maybe you guys are disappointed. But when I do deep dives, I look at it from a mental health perspective. And I want to specifically look at, the father of the siblings. Okay. So as you have our little mic drop, okay, people are saying Mi-jung is their favorite character. That makes sense. Yeah. I also love the older sister and even the brother. They all have their interesting character dynamics. And I want to talk about the the dad of the family. So his name, I forget his real life. I know it's something Hojin, but I love the actor. Let me preface it that way. I love that K-drama actor. He's a veteran in lots of K-dramas. And I love him in all the K-dramas. Now this one, also his acting, if you watch it, it is specifically nonverbal. He barely says a word. And in other K-dramas, he's very, he has like dialogue. But this one, I'm like, interesting. So even from the get-go, I was watching this dad. I'm seeing some people say, this dad could be my dad. This dad could also be my dad. Literally, when I was growing up. Yeah. But obviously, this is Korea, right? I grew up in the US, but I am Korean. So, and I believe any Asian or anybody could relate to the very stoicness of the dad. Stern, calm, but a little brooding. Brooding meaning it's like this dark mood. Not mean or, mad or even scary, but just very stoic, no expression, but lots of, if you're going to use the Noonchi, right? Understanding Noonchi, you got to watch your Noonchi around him. You got to watch how you behave. And I thought it was interesting that they're showing a very stereotypical, but even traditional Korean family environment, right? Because you've seen by this point, a lot of you are K-drama fans. And I'm pretty much sure that you're seeing lots of K-dramas where the dads are much warmer, even so, heartwarming and loving-hearted. But this particular dad is, I would say, stereotypical, honestly, right? And reminded me a bit of my dad. But why am I talking about him? Anybody want to take a guess? Dun, dun, dun. The deep dive is from, I have my laptop too, in case I want to show or look at an example. Too bad I can't show clips, right? But an example of why I'm looking at this from a mental health perspective. Look at the 3 siblings and their mother, the wife, right? And then look at what the siblings are struggling with. What are the siblings struggling with, you guys? If you were to say, I'm actually conducting a class, pretending that I'm teaching you a workshop, and you guys are literally listening and, raising your hand, okay? Or it's a Zoom call. But I just asked a question. What are the 3 siblings, 3 siblings struggling with? Think. Mi-jung says it quite a bit in what she's struggling with. Well, depression is pretty deep. I would actually say not necessarily, actually. But you know what they're struggling with? Relationships, love, finding an emotional attachment to a significant other. That is what they're all struggling with. And so why would I look at the dad? From a mental health perspective, the father, as much as you can tell, clearly he's a loving dad, as in he takes care of his family, and he obviously has a closeness or affection with Mi-jung. And the mom even said it, that she's his favorite, being I don't know if it's just the youngest, but she is, and I saw some of that, But again, the dad doesn't show much expression. Again, that could be typical. Not always in some, but certainly in my upbringing it was, But everyone is just sitting there not talking. Do you see those dinners? Very non-verbal, but there's a presence, and it's the dad who gets up and is all about the dad, right? There is a few moments that I see that remind me of how the father acts with the family, or even shows or doesn't show affection to his wife, the sibling's mom, and how do the siblings translate that to their love relationships. Now, Mi-jung was very bold to say, I need to, and then we'll talk about Chuang in a second, worship, right? But worship, I told you, is not my interpretation, but you get the picture, as in admire, wholeheartedly, cherish, right? Adore, not necessarily worship, but I was going to say, do you see that in the dad? And that is actually how a family starts. The parents model behavior to their kids. And you, perhaps you're the kid, whether it's an adult or teen, or you're a mom or dad, and you're like, you know what? Yeah, the behavior that a parent models translates to how you relate to others. The first relationship you have in your life generally is your parents. Now, obviously, there are adoptees and everything like that, but people who are adopted are also attached to their adopted parents, as in that's the first attachment, right? Or caregiver. So in this particular family, the father says it all, and I believe he is the critical factor. And it really, I'm watching him, and yes, I'm enjoying the K-drama. It reminds me a lot of My Mister, a little bit less melancholy than My Mister, kind of. But I was crying a lot more in My Mister, actually, by this point. But what I really like is, as I'm watching the dad, I'm like, you know what? That makes sense. Why the siblings act like this. This makes sense where the brother, do you see the brother completely analyzing or being very analytical? I don't get this, criticizing his older sister and the way she approaches love. And then he himself is struggling with it, can't show any emotion. Remember early on, this is a spoiler if you haven't watched it, but I'm assuming you've watched it. The girlfriend breaks up with him, but actually you find out it wasn't really her so much as her being hurt by him, right? A little bit lack of that affection. So everything's coming together, and then you have Mi-jung, who's pretty miserable, depressed. I could see it's probably she seems depressed, but I wouldn't say it's depression, right? Depressive, but as we're seeing her being more happy. Why? Because she's getting that reciprocal relationship, reciprocity, love. In turn, she's getting that. But the father is the one that has set the tone for all their relationships. What do you think about that? And I want to say, because I'm a family therapist, it's true when I work with families. I don't just say, even if I work with an adult child, 30, 40, 50, I'll always look at what's behind that person's family life to set the context of who this person is and understand the relationships this person had with their parents or caregivers or whoever that is, right? It may not be parents for some people. I don't know if you're being sarcastic, but yeah, I'm telling you, watch the dad. He is actually a critical character in this. I'm actually thinking we're going to see a little bit more dialogue maybe. I don't know. I mean, I hope so. But his nonverbals say it all. I don't know about you, but I'm watching the dinner and I'm like biting my nails, their dinner scenes, because that reminds me of my family. And you guys know I wrote a book and I talk about that, except obviously I love my dad, have a very good relationship, but that's what it was like. I was like eating, and then growing up in the West, I wanted to talk more, but I was like, I better not talk and dissatisfy anything. Kind of reminds me of that, especially with the son and the dad, very different relationship than the daughters do. But the oldest daughter actually also said, hey, remember she was crying? Was it at episode 7 or 8? I mean, I loved her expression. She's like, I don't know why I'm so emotional. Remember she used to be such a jerk to the guys that liked her? They talk about her history. Same thing, right? Same thing. She was also struggling with, she doesn't have a model of expression. I mean, look at her mom. The mom shows a little bit more, but the dad sets the tone for everything. That's not always the case in the family, but this particular family it is. So I'm going to the origin of why they may be struggling with the thing that they're really struggling the most, which is finding a relationship or a committed relationship or someone to love or someone to love them. I'm going to pause. Truly liberation. Oh, and obviously we know the meaning of liberation, feeling free, but you're not feeling free because you're tied down to someone. The freeness is experiencing that emotional love. That's my interpretation so far. I usually don't like doing deep dives in the middle of the K-drama until I see the whole thing to assess everything. But I feel like we're kind of getting to that point, right? She's talking a lot about feeling free, feeling trapped, even when she was in relationships, because obviously it was not the right relationship or not feeling like she was being reciprocated in that love. And yes, you can feel trapped, definitely in the wrong relationship. So don't misunderstand that you need to find a relationship to feel fulfilled. No, it's the right relationship or the reciprocity, which is someone loves you, you love them and you get that love in return. That's what she said. Now here, I'm going to say this. Pause on the father. The chuang part. Yeah, I have a problem with that word. And so does my husband. He's like, why do we keep, and we're going to continually see that word because that's what they're using. And do you know that even in the K-drama, the siblings are like, what? You told him to worship you, chuang you? What? Does that mean, oh my gosh, Heil Hitler? Remember there's a scene where the daughter, the oldest sister is talking about, wow, are you like worshiping the guy like a leader, like you're the best of all time? So they're not understanding either. You get what I'm saying? I thought that was funny. I'm like, interesting. They're seeing it literally, what the literal term means, where all of us are trying to make sense figuratively. Like, what does it really mean? We know she's talking about being loved, being adored, cherished. When you're cherished, you're like a prized possession, but you also, in episode 3, I said the best line to me so far, and it still is to this day. I'm still waiting. I feel like the dad is going to say a good one-liner. The best line to me so far is in episode 3, when she says, Mi-jung says, to the mysterious good-looking guy, right? Hey, do you want me to also chew on you back? Because I feel like you could use it too. Yeah. And she uses the word, and I had to ask my husband, who's much better at Korean, fill your cup, fill me, feel whole again. And that is the right subtitle that you saw. You look like you could use this as well. Because she told him to cherish her or chew on her. And then nothing was said for about a good episode until episode 3. And that to me was like, oh, I'm so glad you said that. Because that is when we see a shift in Mr. Gu, right? We see a shift and he does start to reciprocate. Before he's like thinking about it, going, is this girl good enough? Whatever, all the things he's thinking about. And then you see him jump off the bridge. I don't know, you know how he jumped off the bridge and did something crazy and caught her hat. And that was his first example of, this is me, showing you that cherishing. Again, these siblings are kind of finding love and delving into this navigation of love relationships on their own. They don't have a model. Now, you're not hearing me say good or bad. Asian culture, I feel like it's very typical. But I'm telling you this to look at your own relationships or the relationships that you've had or struggling or navigated. And I need you to break some of that cycles of non-expression, stoicism. I also, as expressive as I am, can have that with my own kids, right? Going, you know what, that's true. My mom was like that. My dad, much more stoic. I have that in me because that's the behavior I was taught. And now I have to unlearn that behavior because I don't want to be that way. There are times you don't have to be full of expression, but to teach your own kids or learn about what it means to love and be loved and show that expression is very important. And it's actually a lot of my work today, right? Understanding those emotional patterns. And again, you know the dad loves them, right? They're clearly a family unit. You know, he has his adult children living with them. So it's not that. It's just that I wish that he showed his own wife first more affection, even some more comments, but it's literally silent. But I also think that's very realistic, which is why this K-drama is beautiful. And then the siblings going, we don't know an example of really affection or love. The older sister sitting there going, I couldn't tell you. She was very mean. So was the brother, in some sense. We learned that from the girlfriend he broke up with. And then Mi-jung, who happens to be the youngest and is watching. You know how the youngest, if you guys are the youngest, raise your hand. But you know how you learn from your older siblings' mistakes. So she's watching that and decided to take her own path. She's technically the protagonist, but I feel like the siblings all show us something. Someone said earlier that they're not necessarily reacting differently. I agree. I actually think they are showing the similar reactions to their love relationships. It's just that Mi-jung, again, being the main character, main lead, they had her kind of go first. But I believe we're going to see more, even from the brother. I want to see more from that character as well. But I want to see something from the dad. Thanks for sharing that. I'm the oldest. So a little bit different, having to take care of my younger sister, you know. Actually, I didn't take care of her. I wasn't a very good sister. But I meant, you know, being like the one that had to be, you know, in charge of everything, and the parents were strictest on me. I kind of carried that burden. And you see that with the older siblings, and then you have the youngest. Yes, that's my whole point. So thank you, Anne. Yes, indeed. If I did not believe you could unlearn some of these family patterns and change the trajectory of your own family, then I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I'm all about change. My private practice is actually called, besides Noona's Noonchi, your change provider. You have to be able to change those family patterns. You have to, especially if you want to, right? So if you did not like this going, you know, I want to show more affection. I don't even know how to show affection. This is an example if you're thinking this. If you don't have that example, how do you show somebody you love affection, right? You kind of start doing the same way you've seen, which is the dad showing no expression, the brother kind of being this way, the older sister being very aloof, maybe even mean. That's the example of the dad. Again, I'm cautious not to say it's bad. It's just that's the family example. So that's the character I'm most interested in. How is he going to help navigate Mi-jung's relationship? He kind of already knows about it, right? He gave her the number, right? Gave him the number. And how is that what's that gonna change? I believe something is going to change with the dad. That's what I'm hoping to see. And then we'll see the change in the siblings' relationships as well. Where are the younger sisters sleep? Yeah, it's a twin bed. You're right, that's a good point. But probably on the floor, I'm assuming, but that's a very good question. They're not showing where she sleeps, right? So that is my deep dive, my live deep dive, my first live deep dive for this month to celebrate Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, celebrating our Asian identity, celebrating all the Asian traditions and cultures, whether we struggle with them or not, and then how that intersects with mental health. And that gets very complicated, right? So I was telling you to look at the father's relationship, maybe even go, oh my gosh, yeah, this makes sense to me, or go, you know what? It doesn't make sense. I've kind of followed my own path. So I want you to look at that because that's the first example of love this family got, the three siblings. And that's what I mean by the three things that they've struggled. I mean, the main thing they're struggling with is they want to be loved and be in a loving relationship, but they don't know how. So that said, if you're a parent, it's about learning from that. How can you show that expression? You want to model good relationships to your kids, whether it's in a blended family or whatever that looks like. But showing that expression of love is super important. At the end of the day, an innate human being need is to be loved, to feel loved, and to feel valued and validated. And validated meaning, you know, I hear you, I believe in you. Chuang for her also meant I believe in you. Remember that? Like she said, cheer you on. But I interpret as, I think it was also cheer you on, but also believe in you. I'm your cheerleader. Don't you love it when someone believes in you? And even at your lowest of low, Mr. Gu is kind of technically at the lowest of low. We don't know his background. We kind of get a sense of something. But he's in a difficult place, right? Hiding. And she doesn't care. Meaning she's still cheering him on. And look at the return that she's getting on that investment. He's giving her back so much. Didn't you love the ramyeon scene? Yeah, I really loved the ramyeon scene when he was making her the ramyeon. That said, thank you so much for watching my live deep dive. Please come back for more. I will do at least a few more of these live in the month of May. Thanks for the claps. Keep in touch and let me know your thoughts. Always DM me anytime. Thanks, guys. Oh, yeah, of course. And you know what? I don't even think they know. Sorry. Someone also says they don't even know they're necessarily feeling sad because of their dad. Do you know when you're growing up? I certainly did it. I just knew that I was stressed and feeling a certain way growing up Asian, Korean American, and being like, oh, this seems so, in Korean, it's taptape. I feel so taptape, but that doesn't mean I didn't feel loved. I did. It's just that I wanted a little bit more of expression of love. You're welcome, guys. Have a great evening. I'm calling in from the East Coast, so it's evening over here, wherever you are. Enjoy the rest of your night or morning. Bye.